They can bury the truth, but they can't kill the soul. Cut through the noise, get back to what matters. Stomp that floor, raise that hand, hear that truth roll across the land. We've been bent, we've been bruised, still we stand with nothing to lose. It ain't easy, it ain't easy. The road is long and hard. We stand for our freedom right here in our own backyard. Yes, Patriot Mike, standing tall and free. Patriot Mike, for you and for me. Strap in. You're live with the Patriot Mike Show.
Good morning, Patriots. How you doing today? This is Friday, so it means I'm podcasting on all the socials, so I'll probably get kicked off today. Who knows? We got lots to talk about. We got breaking news coming from all the fraudsters. There's no fraud. You know, the same people who denied that there was a theft of election, the same people who said January 6th was an insurrection.
Into inciting an insurrection, which he did.
They said he participated in an erection, and I have to, in insurrection, sorry.
If they believe Donald John Trump incited the erection.
Let's talk about the fact that President Trump incited an erection. And maybe that too.
Who has been impeached for inciting the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. We understand that the former
insurrection, and I have to say, I got up at 5 this morning to do Casey Hunt's show, and I'm exhausted. So,
Yeah, you can talk about that too, I guess.
Maybe we should talk about that too. The president incited an insurrection. Maybe we should talk about the fact that the former president was...
Yeah, those people, they all the same people that are denying that there's fraud today. There's no fraud. What are you talking about? It's perfect. It's wonderful. There's nothing to see here, folks. Move on. The same people who told us to shut up, put our mask on, and hide in the basement and get your multiple vaccines because vaccines are safe and effective. That's why you need to get 10 of them. Those same people, the date is wrong. Well, how about that? I changed that twice. How about that? Well, doggone it. I wonder why the date is wrong. I changed that. Well, see, let's see if I can fix it. If I can fix it right now. It should be. I went in and I saw that had happened. And I went in and edited it. Is it wrong on anybody watching on Facebook or X or anywhere? Is it wrong there too? I guess you gotta be smarter than a piece of machinery. Okay. Close. Now, if you refresh in about 30 seconds, it should be fine now. Somebody teach this guy how to do this. Let me see here. Let me just look here. Yeah, see, it's right on Facebook. It's right on YouTube. I don't know. I guess Rumble just wants to be a pain today. All right, let's get started with the show. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we rejoice and be glad in it, because it doesn't matter what happens, good or bad or indifferent. God is good all the time. And the word of the day, as given by the Lord, presented by Marine in the Woods, is Isaiah 52, 1 through 12. That's Isaiah 52, 1 through 12. Awake, awake, and put on thy strength, O Zion. You know who the greatest Zionist to ever live was? The one who has ever lived. God Almighty himself was a Zionist. Oh, yeah. I have some thoughts. I'm going to put them on paper and post them here eventually. I have some thoughts about this Zionism and this stuff going on. I have some thoughts on that I'd like to someday put down. I haven't quite got it all figured out in my head yet, but it will come. It says, come on, Mike, after 6 years, take a course. Right? No, what I need is a producer. See, the producer's job is to make sure all that's correct. You know, like Candace Owens. We're going to talk about her today because she's in the news. Like Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson or Megyn Kelly. They got all these producers and all this technology and all this stuff to make it look perfect. It's very expensive. Stu Peters, another one. Very produced shows. My show's not produced. My show is hit play and go for it. It's obvious too. Anyways, the Babylon Bee, bringing tomorrow's news today in the form of satire. This is a great article. Zillow adds new feature for California homes, showing whether they are currently on fire. Los Angeles, California, popular house purchasing platform Zillow added a new feature this week that will helpfully informs users of which homes in Southern California are currently on fire. Zillow unveiled the new feature in what they said was an effort to provide potential home buyers with full transparency when looking at listings online. Prospective buyers will now have up-to-the-minute information about which homes are engulfed in flames. Knowing if a home is currently on fire will help those in the market to make informed decisions, Zillow spokesperson Timothy Baker said. We believe everyone in looking at homes in California needs to know what the state of the house is and whether or not it's been leveled by a wildfire or currently raging uncontrollable inferno. The state of California is no stranger to wildfires, and experts have argued that the issues residents face could be mitigated by better governance. Others, however, believe there are really no viable options when it comes to controlling the fires, and allowing them to destroy hundreds of homes is just a natural part of life in the Golden State. We believe this is helpful information to have, Baker said. Surprisingly, some people are actually okay with buying a house that's currently on fire. This feature will help them find the properties they're looking for. At Publishing Time, Zillow has also added a feature that lets users see which houses in California were currently occupied by homeless squatters. You know, that homeless squatter thing in these states that give the squatters more rights than the homeowners. There's actually an A&E television series coming up about homeless squatters. Have you seen that? These people get hired by the owner to go in and live inside the apartment because the squatters don't have the right to kick them out, just like they don't have the right. Dude, the trolls are trolling, aren't they? Breaking news, blah, blah, blah. So what? Yeah, we don't care about you. Go away. If you got breaking news, go have a show of your own. It would be easier. But anyways, I digress. It's probably Nasera Jacera or something like that. Everybody show up at the fault line. Let's pry California off into the ocean. Yeah, well, it might just do that on its own. You know, yeah, God is moving. God is moving. You know, that's the other thing I was thinking as I was reading that. Do they have a Zillow app that shows the homes that have potentially fallen due to earthquakes? Because that's a thing in California too. You know, my family out in California are petrified and afraid of tornadoes. My sister she's like, there's too many tornadoes, in case you don't know. It's spelled the same, but one's a GM two-door car. But she's panicking over the tornadoes. And I'm like, yeah, well, you can see them coming from a long ways away, and you can get in your basement or you can leave. How's them wildfires and earthquakes working out for you? Just saying. Yeah, well, we have fires around here too, but we have firemen that put them out, theoretically. Of course, as much rain as we're getting right now, everything's soaked in water. There's not much going on there. So let's get started. We got fraud breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start with this out of Minnesota, Fox News reporting.
I honestly believe Keith Ellison and Governor Walz need to be held accountable. There needs to be an investigation done. If they weren't aware, that's concerning.
Bach recently told the New York Post that she struggles to believe that Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar did not know about the fraud. Omar sponsored the legislation that was exploited to make the scam possible. Now, Omar issued a statement yesterday reading in part, any claim that I had knowledge of the scheme is flat out false. Omar also said she's grateful that Amy Bach and the individuals who defrauded taxpayers and vulnerable children are being held accountable. Dana?
Okay, Mike Tobin, thank you so much.
So that's the lady that just sentenced to 40 years in prison. She's the quote unquote mastermind of the $100 and something million fraud of the Feeding Our Friends deal that Ilhan Omar they were like best friends. And Ilhan Omar has thrown her under the bus, but not the Somalians. They're victims. And she's coming out saying Keith Ellison and Tim Walz had to have known. You know what she's doing, by the way? You know what she's doing? She's pleading with the investigators. Let me tell you my story. Let me tell you who funded me and who got me going and who did all this. That's what she's saying. Tim Walz will resign. That day is absolutely coming. Sooner rather than later, it's coming. I promise you. And I don't care what they say. Here's Nick Shirley talking about the fraudsters being charged. This is a new one. Fraudster charged in Minnesota in the daycare that received $3,670,000 a year to watch kids has now been charged with childcare fraud. This is the same daycare where the scam Feeding Our future operated. So same place. Different organization, different person. If it was not for David and these fraudsters, I would still be getting away with the fraud. If it was not for David and these fraudsters would still be getting away with the fraud. We made them leer the hard way. Today will be a bigger day in the celebration. Use code LEERING for 25% off the entire website where you can go buy some Nick Shirley merch. Code word LEERING. Oh, it's happening. There's nothing happening. Oh, yeah, it is. The exposure has begun. Here's some more. It says, update, Minnesota fraudster is charged for childcare fraud. Fahima Muhammad, whatever. This chick right here, she's so beautiful, received $2.67 million for her daycare and tried to escape America prior. This is the same daycare where $250 million Feeding Our Future scam took place. Arrest all the fraudsters, says Nick. If it wasn't for Nick, I mean, Nick has done the job that the USAID had paid all of the media to do. Nick did it for free.
Program.
So here is Assistant AG for Fraud Enforcement standing with Dr. Oz and RFK Jr. The big dogs are out in Minnesota.
An autism program that cost the taxpayer $600,000 just 6 years ago skyrocketed to over $400 million. And to be sure, that number is not driven by supply and demand. It is not driven by healthcare or charity. It is fraud. To tackle this crisis, and it is a crisis in Minnesota, earlier this year, the Department of Justice surged 11 strike force prosecutors from across the country to be here on the ground fighting the rampant fraud targeting our taxpayer-funded programs. And large numbers of agents from our partners at the FBI, HHS-OIG, HSI, IRS-CI, and others joined our prosecutors to rapidly unmask fraudulent actors in Minnesota. These agents and prosecutors have been working around the clock to root out the criminals stealing taxpayer dollars, and I am proud of all they accomplished in such a short time. Their hard work made today possible.
So, okay, this continues.
Luxury vehicles and splurge on expensive jewelry. We will not, full stop, tolerate this greed and deceit. We will not let fraudsters bankrupt Medicare and Medicaid the same way that they bankrupted the Housing Stabilization Services Program. As mentioned, this is just the beginning. With the support of President Trump, Vice President Vance, Acting Attorney General Blanche, Chairman Ferguson and the White House Anti-Fraud Task Force, Secretary Kennedy, Dr. Oz and his team, and the entire federal fraud-fighting apparatus, the Department of Justice will continue expanding our reach across the country to pursue all fraud, no matter how large, no matter how small, no matter how hard. Since April 1st, DOJ's Fraud Division has announced over 450 fraud enforcement actions nationwide, representing billions of taxpayer dollars. And this week already, we're delivering results coast to coast with a trial conviction in Brooklyn involving a $40 million drug distribution and fraud scheme, and a trial conviction in Los Angeles involving a $40 million Botox injection fraud scheme. To expand our reach, we are announcing today the expansion of the healthcare fraud Midwest Strike Force to Minnesota, and the hiring of 15 additional prosecutors dedicated to combating Medicaid fraud nationwide. These additional resources will ensure that the DOJ's Fraud Division will be better equipped to stop fraud and hold criminals accountable. My message to the Minnesota community and to all of America is this: if you see something that seems too good to be true, tell us. In some areas, such as in the daycare prosecutions we announced today, a culture of fraud has taken root, where child care centers even offer kickbacks to parents to enroll their children. If something sounds good to be true, it is. Do the right thing, speak out, help us win the fight against fraud. And now my message to the fraudsters is this: eat, drink, and be merry today, because your days of frolicking and freedom are numbered. We are doing everything we can to find you. And when we do, we will prosecute you, and we will claw back every dollar you have stolen from the American people. We will not rest until every fraudster knows that the cost of stealing from the American people is far higher than any
violation. This was organized threat, organized theft that exploited the most vulnerable children in America, deceived families, stole taxpayer dollars meant to help children with autism access legitimate care and support. Investigators uncovered brazen schemes that billed taxpayers for non-existent services, fraudulent diagnoses, and fake care, while criminals enrich themselves at public expense. Every fraudulent autism diagnosis steals time, care, and resources from the children for whom this program was denied and who desperately need this care. Families with autistic children already face enormous challenges navigating therapies, specialists, and support systems. Fraud makes those barriers even steeper. America is facing a real autism crisis. Today, approximately 1 in every 31 children is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Medicaid finances a significant share of autism-related services nationwide, and spending has risen dramatically over the last decade, and a lot of that spending is because of fraud. When criminals exploit these programs, taxpayers lose billions, and vulnerable children lose their access to care. Healthcare fraud now costs the United States tens of billions of dollars every year. Some estimates place the broader cost of healthcare fraud and improper payments at $100 billion.
So that's just a little bit of the fraud they got going on in Minnesota. And now they're starting to charge people. People are going to go to jail. And this is going to lead to greater and greater and greater fraud. Here is Dr. Oz on this. Dr. Oz looks pissed off to me.
But Minnesota Department of Health here said they had it handled. They were going to take care of it. And we didn't hear back from them until the last week of August at a conference, at an event around that conference. There was a comment made by someone who worked in that organization here in Minnesota that they actually didn't have it handled. And there were significant problems that had gotten so out of hand that panic was setting in. And it was at that point that we re-engaged the process and realized that there were programs that had been created here with massive spending that had increased so rapidly that there's no way to save the program. The Housing Stabilization Program, which takes care of people who are struggling with homelessness or substance abuse and many other reasons why they may need housing, especially in a place like Minnesota where in the cold that can be lethal, needed that program to survive. We are all up here because we love these programs. Medicaid is the fundamental payer of last resort for our most needy, most vulnerable citizens. And when we're unable to keep these programs alive because of fraudsters, it hurts all of us deeply. And that's what happened here in Minnesota. Housing Stabilization Program, which had gone from a tiny little program to over $100 million of spending just to find someone on the streets a place to stay, which had been doubling in its expenditures annually, was shut down. Now, these are not the outcomes that we desire, but when you have to force a shutdown, it's an issue. Now, along that way, Nick Shirley, I just noticed standing there, came and started doing videos. I want to call out the folks who are angry and frustrated about this. Thank you, Nick. Who want to, perhaps if you want to serve, come join us. But if you can't serve, do what you can to shine a light on these cases. And with lots of folks beginning to tell us more and more of the different clues that we were able to put into a larger quilt to understand the magnitude of the catastrophe happening here in Minneapolis and Minnesota in general, we began to take action. Now, I want to point out that a lot of this started during COVID. If you're asking how and why, COVID led to a general abandonment of principles around protecting these programs. The corruption that ensued grew rapidly. Total Medicaid spending has increased.
All right. So, Mehmet Oz, could you imagine? Mike says 5 years ago, I'd have been happy for just one thing to happen. Right now, everything's happening. Just think about. Just that's a great point. I just want you to put your thinking cap on, your Wayback Machine, and I want you to think about to 5 years ago. I want you to think about that if this was the end of May 21, And we had the DOJ and the Health and Human Services investigating all this fraud in Minnesota. You had Steve Pratt running for mayor in LA with all of the things he's doing. You have all the exposure that's coming to Gavin Newsom. You have all the stuff coming out about the Patriot mythology and surges you went to. You see that all the Hunter Biden stuff that's becoming starting to come out. You had the real investigations into the fraud that happened in 2020. You have the Russia grand conspiracy going on in South Florida right now. You had Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, all happening simultaneously. You have election fraud hearings in the House about Maricopa County, Arizona. Just think about that for a minute. You have Jim Jordan running fraud investigations in the House, election investigations looking into Georgia, Philadelphia, Michigan, Arizona in the House. You have Hillary and Billary going in and doing depositions on Epstein. Just think about that for a second. All you nothing happening people. You're not prepared for what's coming. Yesterday you all were talking about having some sort of event where we can all get together for a couple days or something in the chat room. If you guys want to put something together like that, well, somebody put together a committee and let's talk about how we're going to do it. That's what I say. And I'll get some speakers together. I think I can get a couple folks. I know I can get Charlie to come. Maybe we can get Aaron a passport. What do you think? That'd be a good time. Missouri's such a central location too, by the way. You got Branson, lots of good venues in Branson. You've got Kansas City's got a lot of good venues. St. Louis, well, let's skip St. Louis, but you get my point. You generally get cheap flights into Kansas City. So I don't know. You all think about it. What do you want to do? Just putting that out there. Just putting it out there in case you was interesting. Here's another one. This story is happening that most people aren't talking about. Nothing's happening. Massive Biden administration cover-up exposed. Lisa Monaco, former U.S. Deputy AG under Biden, has been referred to the DOJ for allegedly covering up investigations into Microsoft cybersecurity breaches. Well, that's interesting. That would be fun. Let's just see here. What do we got? I got more information on this. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. Is this it? Nope. Oh, here it is right here. It's Badlands reporting it. Lisa Monaco faces DOJ referral over Microsoft cybersecurity allegations. Former Biden Deputy Attorney General and former Obama National Security Aide Lisa Monaco is now facing referral to the Justice Department after American Accountability Foundation accused her of shielding Microsoft from cybersecurity enforcement actions before joining the company in 2025 as president of global affairs. Bill Clinton's like, I want that job. It says the referral alleges that the Biden DOJ failed to pursue major action against Microsoft despite multiple cyber intrusions in 2019 and 2023 tied to Russia and China hackers that reported compromised sensitive U.S. government systems. The foundation noted Monaco oversaw the DOJ's civil cyber fraud initiative, which targeted other contractors for less serious alleged misconduct. While no corporate case was brought against Microsoft, the complaint also points out that several former Biden administration cybersecurity officials who later took jobs at Microsoft or firms connected to the company, including former DOJ official John P. Carlin and former FBI cyber official Brian A. Valderan. The group asked DOJ Inspector General to investigate whether Monaco and other officials violated ethics, recusal, and revolving door restrictions, and whether Microsoft could face liability under the False Claims Act for representations made to federal agencies about security of its systems. Well, it's like the old saying is, don't open your windows, it lets bugs in. I mean, it's part of Microsoft, isn't it? I mean, Microsoft was made that way, wasn't it? I don't know. Anyways, there's that story. Another one. Just drop in here. They're just dropping there. Here's RFK talking about all of the autism fraud that's going on in Minnesota.
I want to start. I thought I was going to have a slide here. I want to call your attention to this, which is in your. Okay, here it is, which is in your packet. This was the cost of the Early Intervention and Development Program in 2020. It was $38.1 million. This is what we expected to be paying every year. Instead, this year we hit $442 million. And that is, I'm showing you that because that's the magnitude of the fraud and the damage that we're talking about today. And I want to thank Todd Blanche, who couldn't be here today, Colin McDonald, and everyone at the Department of Justice for leading this effort. I want to thank also the FBI, who you're going to hear from in a little while, the HHS Office of Inspector General, CMS, and especially Dr. Oz, the White House Anti-Fraud Task Force, and Vice President Vance, and the investigators and law enforcement personnel whose relentless work made today's action possible. Today's arrests represent the largest autism fraud bust in American history. This was not a paperwork error. It was not a technical violation. This was organized threat, organized theft that exploited the most vulnerable children in America, deceived families, stole taxpayer dollars meant to help children with autism access legitimate care and support. Investigators uncovered brazen schemes that billed taxpayers for non-existent services, fraudulent diagnoses, and fake care, while criminals enrich themselves at public expense. Every fraudulent autism diagnosis steals time, care, and resources from the children for whom this program was denied and who desperately need this care. Families with autistic children already face enormous challenges navigating therapies, specialists, and support systems. Fraud makes those barriers even steeper. America is facing a real autism crisis. Today, approximately 1 in every 31 children is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Medicaid finances a significant share of autism-related services nationwide, and spending has risen dramatically over the last decade, and a lot of that spending is because of fraud. When criminals exploit these programs, taxpayers lose billions, and vulnerable children lose their access to care. Healthcare fraud now costs the United States tens of billions of dollars every year. Some estimates place the broader cost of healthcare fraud and improper payments at $100 billion annually. That fraud drives up healthcare costs for all Americans. It weakens public trust. It drains taxpayer resources and threatens the long-term stability of both Medicaid and Medicare. If we fail to confront the fraud aggressively, these programs will not survive for future generations in the form Americans rely upon them today.
So they're cracking down on everything in Minnesota. By the way, I foresee a day when they standing out, Dr. Oz and RFK Jr. and the rest of them are standing out in California. I foresee that day when they're standing out there doing the same thing, and the numbers will be much, much bigger. Now here, they're now the New York AG Letitia St. James, whatever her name is under fire for driving school bus in Queens. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Fake CDL licenses.
Today to the people of New York is that unfortunately too many people have gotten driver's licenses because of corruption, because of greed, because of theft, because of thievery. We are announcing arrest today of individuals who are taken into custody. There are multiple New York State, some are New York State motor vehicle examiners who brazenly betrayed their oaths of office by accepting cash in exchange for falsifying the results of countless road examinations, or in many cases allowing individuals to bypass the testing process altogether. The result of a long-term investigation spearheaded by my office and the New York State Inspector General with the assistance of the New York City Police Department and those who are here with us and you will hear from today. Investigators uncovered a corrupt network involving not only government employees, but also individuals at a driving school, imposters who took tests on behalf of unqualified applicants, and the applicants themselves who paid to illegally obtain driver's licenses. In some cases, even the prerequisite learner's permit was fraudulently obtained.
So they're giving out driver's licenses like candy in New York if you got enough money. Every part, Mustang, every part of the government's corrupt. Everywhere that they give out money in any form is corrupt, and that money is going to pay for fraud, basically. Here is Fox News reporting on the sentencing of the mastermind of the fraud at the Feed Our Futures.
Breaking news, a Minnesota judge has just sentenced the mastermind behind the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, Amy Bach. She just got more than 41 years in prison. The prosecution is asking for a 50-year sentence and her defense about 3 years. So that's somewhere in the middle that they got that, but closer to what obviously the prosecution wanted. The scheme involved the theft of nearly $250 million in COVID funding. That money was meant to feed hungry children. State leaders claim they were unaware of the fraud. Here's what Amy Bach told our Alexis McAdams from jail back in January.
I honestly believe Keith Ellison and Governor Walz need to be held accountable. There needs to be an investigation done. If they weren't aware, that's concerning.
Now, that's the person in jail for doing the fraud. She's projecting. She's saying, y'all, I ain't the only one. Yeah, I got my share, but there were shares going other places. Yep. Here is this is the deputy AG, and he's talking about how because of this fraud, people are dying.
People. For example, one defendant is charged with defrauding the Integrated Community Supports Medicaid program. This program is designed to help individuals with disabilities live independently. One patient was supposed to be receiving 24-hour care through this program, but he was actually being serviced by a fraudster and received no services. This patient was later found dead. Meanwhile, the architect of this fraud scheme was billing Medicaid as if he was providing care to this patient. The defendant even submitted a claim of over $400 for services he never provided the day before this man died. In another example, two defendants have been charged for defrauding a program designed to offer medical services to those.
So because they were getting paid for the services never provided, a man died. And they didn't know that he died because no one was going there to check on him like they were charging and billing Medicaid for every single day. That's what's happening. And it's really is a shame. Okay, I'm going to skip some of these. It's a repeat. That's all good. We'll get here and see. All right. Some of this stuff is repeat on repeat, so I don't want to say it all again. Oh, here's news. Here's news. This is interesting. Let's see what comes of this. Today's the day.
The Federal Reserve is a day away now from a changing of the guard, with Kevin Warsh set to take over for Jerome Powell as chairman. The Wall Street Journal writing, quote, Kevin Warsh wants to remake the Fed. Here's what he is up against. The new chair's framework has been consistent for 2 decades. The question now is how much of it his colleagues will accept. Let's bring in former Obama economic advisor Mohammed.
So we got a new Fed chairman being sworn in today. Today's the day. Isn't that what? That's Brad Barton's thing. Today, right? Isn't it something like that? Now here's another story. Here's another story. So they're investigating, and they went to go round up some of these dudes, and a guy whose name happens to be Omar. Last name Omar. Well, they tried to catch the guy, and they didn't.
They are coming after the people who defrauded state-run programs in Minnesota backed by federal tax dollars for billions of dollars. This as prosecutors announced indictments of 15 new individuals for fraud. In fact, Christopher Raya, deputy director of the FBI, released video of this new suspect, Mohammed Omar, who he says jumped out of a 4th-story window to escape law enforcement and is currently on the run. Raya made the point that these are not victimless crimes. They target the most vulnerable demographic. The examples given by prosecutors were autism programs and housing assistance programs that were scammed so badly they shut down. Now the people who need housing assistance and treatment for autistic kids can't get it.
Our cases today involve 7 different state-managed Medicaid programs that have been systematically pilfered by fraudsters who treated Minnesota-run programs as their personal piggy bank.
Guy jumped out a 4-story window to run from the cops. You know, bad boys, what you gonna do? It's crazy. Now, here's another one. The fraud. We got autism fraud. We got hospice fraud. We got welfare fraud. We got food stamp fraud. We got all the fraud that you think you could fraud. We got small business loan fraud, too.
Well, Kaylee, this is actually policy for Democrats. This is the allowance of fraud. They knew what was happening. They knew that they were not going to check Treasury's do not pay list because 2/3 of them would have been flagged on the do not pay list. And then they ordered SBA employees to only take 4 hours per applicant and not take any more time and get those applications through. That's how $14 billion got out the door so quickly. And then we come to find out in the GAO report that 70% of it was fraudulent. Now, we, from day one at the SBA, have come in with a zero tolerance policy on fraud. And so we began cracking down on it right away. We've already sent out 1,000 demand letters demanding that those who took the money, now, these were not loans. These were grants. These were the federal government writing checks of taxpayer money to the folks you just named, not the small mom and pop theater in your local community that had to close due to COVID. These were rock stars. And so what we're doing is systematically going through, issuing demand letters and making sure taxpayers get the money back and that people are prosecuted. Not one single person was referred to Treasury during this entire Biden administration until we've come in, sent the letters over to Treasury, and then we're also going to be sending them to the DOJ. So fraudsters, be on notice. We're coming after you.
So you got, now that's, you know, back when that was happening, right? They kept contacting me and wanting me to take some of that small business money, and I wouldn't do it with my little small business. For one, I didn't have any employees, so I didn't think I was qualified. Oh, we could get you qualified. That's not a problem. And now they're seeking to seize that money back. How that's going to suck for these small businesses that took the money and run. Right? I'm just saying, that's not good. Tim Burchett points out another level of fraud. He's been bitching about this all year, and the Senate has done nothing. We still send $400 million a week to the Taliban because the Senate won't vote on my no tax dollars for terrorist act. Let me ask you a question. Everywhere money is spent. Let me just remind you that these ban AIPAC people, the Jews are bad people, they don't say a doggone thing about us sending $400 million a week to the Taliban. Every dime that's spent by our government is potentially fraudulent. Just remember that. Every dime.
Is this? What did Elon?
Every dime. Every time. Just remember, every dime, every time. It's probably fraud. Somebody's getting a penny, a piece of the action. Somebody's getting a piece of the action. You know, Ilhan Omar is deny. Here's Fox News in the morning. Was this Fox and Friends? Here they go.
Question is this: what did Ilhan Omar know? And why did Amy Bach say, I talked to her office? I never talked to her. But her assumption was in Sunday's New York Post that she knew. So here's what Omar said. Any claim that I had knowledge of the scheme is flat out false. As I stated from the beginning, stealing millions of dollars under the guise of feeding hungry children to bankroll lavish lifestyles and extravagant expenses is reprehensible. I'm grateful that Amy Bach and every individual involved in the abhorrent scheme are being held accountable for defrauding taxpayers and betraying vulnerable children.
So Nick Shirley is the young, intrepid YouTube investigator who uncovered a lot of this and did a lot of his own reporting on the ground. Here's what he had to say.
For Ilhan to say she doesn't know about this fraud is like the biggest lie we've heard in American history. She knew about the fraud. And today they actually just criminally charged one of the ladies for the feeding our whose daycare was used for the Feeding Our Future fraud. And I exposed her daycare in my video that went viral, and that person's now been charged. And this is all around where her congressional district. And so for her to say that she didn't know about this fraud is such a lie. And she's obviously trying to cover her face. I mean, look at her net worth. It just went down by $29 million.
But again, assume it's a lie. I mean, the thing is, you have to tie it to her. Someone's got to follow up on it.
But we also have.
Here's some more. Well, that's not it. That's not it either. By the way, this is Donald Trump. Let's play this one. Donald Trump with rescinding a Obama-era rule on technologies.
Administration, the so-called technology transition rule, which was crazy, forced companies to adopt specific high-cost refrigerants, massively driving up the price of transporting and storing refrigerants and various goods. Many grocery stores and restaurants had no choice but to replace their refrigerators entirely. They went out of business, half of them. And these costs rose. Americans faced higher grocery prices and reduced access to critical medical supplies. It was a very catastrophic thing that they did. At the same time, this rule also drove up the cost of living by forcing consumers to purchase higher cost residential air conditioning units. They went up very substantially in cost, and also they were going to be obsolete very quickly. It created national security risk by adding additional hurdles to the already complicated process of manufacturing semiconductors. So it was a mess. Likewise, the so-called emissions rule imposed crippling leak repair requirements on virtually all existing large-scale refrigeration systems, hurting consumers and small businesses, making it almost impossible for many small businesses to even buy inferior equipment. And this is all across the country. The higher cost threatened thousands of jobs and was passed on in the form of higher prices and higher taxes. Today's reforms will deliver significant financial relief, saving American families and businesses more than $2.4 billion. Think of that, each year. Thanks to today's reforms, the American people have lower grocery prices, cheaper transportation of goods, lower costs of air conditioning, at no detriment at all to our country. Zero. Including environmental detriment. My administration's historic deregulatory agendas already saved our country an estimated $1.2 trillion. That's been done over a relatively short period of time. 1.2 trillion with a T. We're committed to fixing the and really completely ending Biden's disastrous regulatory policies and delivering financial relief to each and every American, which is what we're doing. This was a tremendous burden, a tremendous cost. These people had to live with it, not only refrigerants, but a lot more. And it was making the equipment unaffordable. And the actual benefit was nothing. It just made it worse. It made life worse, and it made it worse, and it drove up.
So there's the repealing Obama. They was changing, they got rid of Freon, which was cheap and extremely effective, way more effective than the stuff that replaced it, because of the ozone layer. Turned out wasn't a problem. It fixed itself. They got rid of Freon and Aquanet. And look I could use some Aquanet right now. You know what I mean? Then they went to 134A. Well, they're replacing 134A with some stuff that's way more expensive. Donald Trump just reversed that because it's a bunch of crap. That's why. And it is. It's a bunch of crap. That's all there is to it. Here is Ilhan Omar as she's questioned about all the fraud. And, of course, she's not a fraudster.
That this is just a made-up lie because you do not investigate someone for 10 years and not come up with anything.
So then why do you think it's still being talked about?
Because these people are disgusting. They believe in weird, creepy things, and that's why they want to believe in this weird.
And
that's all I will say.
No, definitely. Why do you think, I guess, that you're being targeted then? It's
because
like
they're racist, they're xenophobic. I just happen to be Muslim, and you're allowed to continue from there. But,
okay. Understood.
Yeah, I mean, they're just disgusting, bigoted people, and that's all I gotta say.
All right, thank you.
So there's real fraud really happening, but because they're going after Somalians and people like her, they're bigots. That's what it is. You're a bigot. If you accuse me of fraud and you have evidence of fraud and there's lots of money running around frauds, you're a bigot. You're a bigot. That's all you need to know. That's it. You're a bigot. See, now you know. Here's what I was talking about. Maricopa County. This is in a hearing.
Is it standard practice to delete files off a server after an election, Mr. Bennett?
I hope not.
So, Mr. Gates, will you agree with that?
I would say that it is appropriate to maintain files, and that's exactly what we did. We deleted the deleted files that have been discussed. They were archived.
So you admit that you guys did delete, Maricopa County did delete files off the server after the election?
That are archived.
Yeah, and so when you released these servers and this information to the auditors to begin with, they didn't have access to those archived files at first. Is that fair to say?
They did not subpoena those. That's correct.
Okay, so you didn't feel obligated to turn that over then to them?
We responded to the subpoena.
Okay. Mr. Bennett, your response to that?
I find it frankly laughable to suggest that a county in response to a subpoena could say we will delete files from the hard drives and materials that we give to the auditors because we have those files archived on data that we did not give to the auditors when the subpoena said turn over all the records related to the election.
Yeah, see, that's the way I read the subpoena. It was read more broadly than the county read it, for sure. So, so your Twitter account mentions that the purging of the 2020 election database in the beginning of February is a standard practice. Can you please confirm for me that that's what you do for all elections? After all elections, you do that?
I cannot confirm that for you today, but we can certainly get you that answer, Congressman.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, can you confirm that today or not?
I really can't confirm that either today. I just know that because there is limited space on these servers, when you have to run another election, then you have to make room for the additional election data.
So was there additional? Was there still? Well, let me just rephrase this. If that is the standard practice, which is kind of, I don't think you guys are saying that you know for sure, but the chairman just intimated that that's the case. Can you explain to me why data was still present for prior elections on the databases in and of itself?
Yeah, again, I don't have an answer to that question, but we'll certainly get you an answer for it, Congressman.
Okay. All right. I would appreciate if you would give me that information.
And I do think that it's important that our recorder has suggested that he will be answering every question in a timely fashion.
That's the same recorder that campaigned that Adrian Fontes was incompetent and called him a criminal. And he was the guy that was running the 2020 election, and you actually hired someone to oversee Mr. Fontes because you guys didn't trust Mr. Fontes as well. Is that the same guy? Is that the same Stephen Richard?
Yeah, I wouldn't put it that way exactly. But what we did was we did have statutory and boards, as you know, Congressman, boards of supervisors have responsibility for election day operations, and we took that back so that we would have 4 Republicans and 2 Democrats overseeing the 2020 election.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you have 92 Republicans and 2 Democrats, if you're all a bunch of corrupt losers. Now, the question was, is it standard practice? Okay, what does the term standard practice mean? I mean, is this what you do on a normal basis? Is this written into the SOP, standard operating procedures, that you delete all the stuff on the servers a few months after the election? Is that the standard? Well, I can't confirm. I don't know. Well, golly gee, well, I don't know what the standard practices of the organization I'm in charge of is. All of that is starting to come out. All of it's starting to come out. Let's talk about Ilhan Omar. One of the reasons why I know that Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz and the rest are involved in all of this stuff, because they tell you without telling you. This used to be the Minnesota flag. It's got 1819, 1893, 1858. It's got, stuff that represents Minnesota. This is now the Minnesota flag. One of these things is not like the other, not like the other, not like the other. Why did they go to this flag? Well, let me show you something. Why is there green on this flag? Anybody from Minnesota in the chat room? There's no real green on here except for maybe these leaves. Why is there green on this flag? Green, white. There's only one color missing. You see, let me show you. This is the Somali flag. This is now the Minnesota flag. Somali, Minnesota. Somali, Minnesota. Somali. And Ilhan Omar has declared her allegiance to Somaliland. You see, there's a civil war in Somalia right now. The regular Somali folks and the Somaliland folks, the Somaliland are radical Islamist Muslims. This is the Somaliland flag. Notice all those Islamists have these 3 colors in common. There's only one color missing. By the way, if you go read in Revelation, tell me what color were the 4 horses of the apocalypse? They were what colors? What colors? Somebody tell me what the colors are. 1 color, 2 color, 3 color, 4 color. Why did Tim Walz change the flag? We're going to find out that most of these people have converted to Islam. Here is JD Vance on the fraud.
Just like all of you, I was shocked last December when I watched Nick Shirley's bombshell investigation of migrant fraud in Minnesota, which called attention to the now infamous Quality Learning Center instead of learning and other schemes across that state. This morning, the ringleader of the $250 million Feeding Our Future fraud scheme in Minnesota was sentenced in federal court to over 40 years in prison, bringing justice to the countless school children and families she had scammed. And on top of that, today, federal law enforcement launched a massive raid in Minneapolis. Across the city, agents have arrested 15 people for suspected fraud that amounted to $90 million. This includes 2 of the largest Medicaid fraud cases in Minnesota history, as well as the largest autism fraud scheme ever charged by the U.S. federal government. With this action, we're bringing justice to some of America's most vulnerable citizens and justice to the American taxpayer. In 2018, Minnesota tried to provide housing services for the homeless. They estimated that the cost of the program would be $2.5 million a year. By 2024, the program had exploded to $104 million annually, and almost all of it was because of fraud. As a result, the state had to shut down the program and can no longer provide those services to Americans in need. So we've got homeless veterans sleeping on the streets because fraudsters got rich. But it's not just the homeless who are the victims of these fraudsters. The victims in the cases announced by DOJ today also include disabled Americans who rely on community support to live full, independent lives, and citizens for whom defrauding such programs is literally a matter of life and death. In one of the most horrifying cases charged today, a recipient who needed 24-hour care was supposed to be receiving exactly that through a Minnesota Medicaid benefit program. But he received nothing. No care, no services, nothing for months on end. And then he went quiet. For 2 days, a neighbor tried to check on him, knocking on his apartment door. Nothing. Shortly after, he was found dead. One day before this man died, the fraudster in question had tried to bill for the non-existent services, the services that if they had been provided, this man might actually be with us today. To get rich off taxpayers, even at the cost of others' lives, just as that fraudster had for many months before. This kind of behavior is sickening. It's disgusting. It's an affront to all of us as Americans. And today we're saying clearly, no more. Our message is simple. If you are committing fraud, our task force will find you. We'll come after you, and we will not rest until justice is served. Don't defraud the American taxpayer. Don't get rich by trying to steal from them, or we are going to come after you until justice is served. That's our promise, and we're going to stick to it.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Oh yeah, there is so much more coming that people don't even understand. It is crazy, the stuff that's coming. Here's another one. I'm just going to read the headline because there ain't much more to the story yet until it pops out. House Oversight officially launches full-blown investigation in a massive Ohio Medicaid fraud scheme allegedly tied to Somali networks. Shocking, I tell you. Representative Brandon Gill, billions of taxpayer dollars stolen. So we got that. All the Minnesota stuff's going on. We have that happening. Here's another one. FBI receiving flash drive incident, or reviewing flash drive incident, election procedures in Milwaukee 2020 probe. That's talking about the voting in Milwaukee. There's a flash drive that went missing. We'll get to that one. We will get to that one. We're talking about the fraud right now. Here's one for you. Double dipping. Jim Jordan demands answers after explosive claim January 6 human sources may have been paid by both the Biden DOJ and the Southern Poverty Law Center. Hello. It's all one big gigantic scam. We already talked about, we already talked about Cake Gate. I've got a couple stories on that here that I'm not going to get to. Come on. Technology. That's the same one. Okay. We'll get to some of that stuff later. Yes. Let's see. I've already covered all that. Already covered that. Okay, cool. We got everything there covered. That's awesome. Let's shift gears just a little tiny bit because we got Ilhan Omar. Oh, we got this one right here. This is kind of fun. Tucker Carlson raises $15 million for new media venture with the backing of financier Ahmed Malik. And we wonder why he hates the Jews. Let's just leave it at that. Right? Am I right? Let's see here. Here is Omar on Mace the Nation a little bit of time ago. And just remember, she's the victim here.
Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen. And so it's been really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset and angry about the fraud that has occurred.
Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis.
I didn't realize that was repeating. I was looking at where I was going to go next. That's right. She says, so the question was about the fraud and the impact. And what does she say? She diverts and talks about how she's the victim. She's $30 million richer or not. Who knows? But she's the victim. She's the victim. It's, if it wasn't for those evil, rascally Republican kids like Nick Shirley, she would have got away with it. Right? Am I right? I'm right, ain't I? I'm right. So let me talk to you about this. This is changing. This is what we call changing the game. Okay. So as you know, I've lost several pounds. Not bragging. I just did it. Taking the chocolate sauce makes your pants fall. Well, we we have other products that I want to talk to you about. And I just want to read this to you. It says, not long ago, I've never heard anyone talk about peptides. Now they seem to be everywhere, from wellness to skincare to recovery, metabolism, healthy aging, and beauty. The simplest way I describe these is this. They are tiny, singular molecules your body naturally recognizes and uses to help support different functions. Different peptides help support skin health, recovery repair, energy focus, metabolism, healthy aging, wellness from inside and out. What I appreciate most about that is that it's not about the trends or the gimmicks. It's about wellness science that actually makes sense to me. So so what would you love the most about support right now? Do you want boost metabolism, balance hormones, aids in weight loss, exercise in a bottle, reduces inflammation, improves skin, hair, relieves chronic pain, or clears brain fog, promotes mental health, curbs appetite, and boosts weight loss? What would be best to you is the question. Now let me answer that question for you with this. Right now, we have some of the best products in this industry available. The most bioavailable products means your body can use them. And right now, today, they're on sale. It's a flash sale today only. You can get yourself the Body, the Elevate, and they'll throw in a free bottle of the chocolate sauce makes your pants fall off, the Slim, and a free bottle of the stuff that helps with the snap, the crack, the creaking, and the pop, the collagen. They'll throw all of that in. It's like a $550, almost $600 value in these products, and you get it for less than half of that all together. And if you today, you got to do it today if you decide to do it. And there's the link. And if you're watching on the other channels, the link right up in the corner there, wherever it's at, that'll help you. But you can send me a message either on Facebook, or you can send me a message on X, or you can just, if you're like, I don't have any of that, I don't know how to get a hold of that, you can send me a message to 660-620-2644 or PatriotMikeShow@gmail.com. And you got to do it today because it like runs out today. Give you a link, walk you through the steps, tell you which ones are best for you, give you the options. And let me tell you something. My wife is down 10, 15 pounds on this stuff. I know that Marina Wood's wife is taking some of it, and she's having great effects. I'm down 215 to less than 265. Like 264, 263. Taking this stuff. It has been a game changer. I just ordered my bundle because it saves so much money. It's ridiculous. You can't buy it for this price individually. And the thing is, go price peptides, not the stuff made in China that's probably just paper, literally. Go real high quality peptides at the health food store where you get the good stuff. Go price it, see how much it costs. And we're very competitive, and it's on sale. So I'll give you an opportunity while you got an opportunity. All right, let's move on with the show. Hey, you support the Patriot Mike Show. I got to do something to make a living. This is how I make a living. And I take every one of these products, or my wife takes these products. So I've had stomach issues. So I went from 165 to 157 in 2 weeks. That's not good. That's not good. You shouldn't do that. You should take care of yourself, man. Come on, man. Okay, let's get into the Patriot mythology time of this show. Those of you that don't watch the show all the time, maybe you're catching me on another channel that I'm not normally on. Patriot mythology is a term coined by my father-in-law 40 years ago about all of this stuff put out in the conspiracy theory page. Didn't have pages back then. They were magazines and newsletters. And he just called it a bunch of garbage because it just wasn't true. It just wasn't true. And so that's where I stole the term from, is from my father-in-law and the Patriot mythology pushers. But we have stuff happening right now. With Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie and all that stuff. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene over there on the Alex Jones show. She's now come out and said that Thomas Massie's election was stolen.
We just watched Thomas Massie's election. I'll say it, rigged and stolen. I have no problem saying that. I don't care who attacks me over that. I know what I saw happen, and I think the country knows what they saw happen, and nobody can deny it. And that's what everyone is talking about ever since it happened on Tuesday, is that this is all too extraordinary to be believable. And Ed Gallerin, which is basically a warm body pumped up by money from Israel, with a Donald Trump rubber stamp on his forehead, somehow won an election with a historic turnout. No, I'm not buying it. And I don't think anyone else is either.
So it was stolen by the Jews. There, now we know Massie lost because the election was stolen by the Jews. Throw the Jews in there, because the grift isn't complete unless you mention the Jews. And you know what? I'll agree with you, MTG. You're right. The election was stolen. We should look into the election. We should rip apart the election. And not stop in his district, but in all the districts. We should go after all the districts. You know, the Patriot mythologists are all jumping on the bandwagon with the Democrats. I'm actually worried now that Trump will refuse to leave office. He already did that when he lost. Well, he didn't lose. It was stolen. Right, Marjorie Taylor Greene? I never thought I would say that, but I think it's a possibility. I say 50-50 chance at this point. Anyone else afraid that this might happen? Twitch Truth Hammer says a whole bunch of silly people were saying the same thing before 2020. But he won the election and still stepped down for the sake of holding the nation together. That's not what a powerful dictator does. And then, of course, he says the lady that made her money doing public housing projects for Obama, yes, that's right, that's what her construction company did. Boy, that's a racket and a scam. I'm telling you. There's people doing that around here. People are going to get busted for that, by the way. It's coming everywhere the money is spent by the government. That is a scam. These housing projects that the government pays for, that these contractors build, these developers build, the developers and the contractors all get paid. It is a scam. And pretending to be mega is now accusing the Trump administration of rigging elections. Come on, man. And Alex Jones drops a bombshell. He confirms Trump is floating the idea of canceling the 2028 elections because the Patriot mythology is not, we got to throw it all out there to illegally stay in power. Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Marjorie Taylor Brown, warns this is a calculated operation to normalize a dictatorship. She states that an administration is violating the Constitution. Even if Donald Trump was thinking about it is not the same as violating the Constitution. Don't be dumb for dumb's sake. It says, these retards like MTG are now claiming that Massie's election was stolen in order to distract from Trump's legitimate claims about the 2020 elections. That's been my point That's been my point all along. These Patriot mythology pushers that get 30,000 people, whoever, well, I don't know if it was that big a number, to show up onto the mall down in Dallas to wait for Michael Jackson and JFK Jr. to come back to life. The same people who were selling you rights, securities on the med bed so you could get your spot in line, who the FBI have arrested and put in jail to make us all look bad with these crazy conspiracy theories. These same people are out here doing it again. And the purpose of it is to make us look stupid, to distract us, and when it doesn't happen, oh my God, nothing's happening. That's because all the BS Bernie Sanders that these Patriot mythology insurgents have been talking about, you know the ones, the big ones, not the Marjorie Taylor Greens, not the Candace Owenses, not the Tucker Carlson, but the other ones. The Stu Peters and his ilk. Telling us a bunch of garbage. And that garbage didn't happen and hasn't happened and isn't going to happen. And we're all going to cry about it. And we all look foolish. We all look like a bunch of conspiracy nut jobs. Because it was never going to happen. Pay attention to what's happening right now, because that's what's happening. I know it's weird, right? Weird. Also in the news today, speaking of Patriot mythology pushers, Hunter Biden's in the news today. Hope resides in real conversations like these, finding the humanity in each other first. That's how we cross the divide. Thank you at Rio Candace Owens for not asking me any of the hard questions and just doing a puff piece on me. Speaking of puff pieces, Candace Owens is interviewing Hunter Biden. I mean, what could go wrong? What could go wrong with Candace Owens interviewing Hunter Biden? Here we are.
And politically, you've had all of your criticism, which I have no problem with, and we disagree on so many things. But I listen to you and I go, right on. Like Epstein, like you want to figure out why they don't want to let the release all the Epstein files. All you got to do is literally look at a picture of Trump standing on his stage at his inauguration and look behind him.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like every single person.
He's protecting his donors without question.
I mean, it's crazy. Like Paolo Zampoli and this and that and the other thing and all of these things. It's like, okay. And by the way, anyway, my point is it's like, when are people going to kind of wake up?
Yeah, really.
DC is corrupt. Politics is corrupt. And I think it is kind of a unifying point, not to excuse, the gaslighting of people for 2 weeks, which made people super angry. But I do think it's just a different time where people are kind of going back and examining. And I feel actually terrible realizing that you were finally clean. And then it's just this humiliation ritual over and over and over again of people putting everything out there and not realizing also your kids are facing this consequence as well, which people do not think about a lot of times when they publish stories. Like I even was reticent and didn't cover the Kristi Noem thing because the first thing that came to my mind
Do they have kids?
Was their kids. Like I'm like, these are kids that are about to go to college. Like, and so, and why are they doing this? Because she's in politics, right? And so this becomes, they don't think about the children. And yeah, I mean, I think now that I have kids too, I think there's just like, wow, they don't sign up for what I do for podcasting, kids.
And there's Candace Owens. Look. Let me put my kid gloves on. Oh, the kids, the children. Oh, your children. Oh, Hunter Biden, your children. Did Hunter Biden give a damn about his children when he was standing there butt naked recording himself with a pistol and a crack pipe and a $10,000 Russian hooker? Really? Have you heard Hunter Biden, the recording of Hunter Biden calling his kid? I'm just saying. And Candace Owens, oh, I didn't talk about Kristi Noem because of her kids, and she had kids. Well, what about Erica and Charlie's kids, Candace? I mean, you've got an interview with Hunter Biden, and you're talking about kids, and you don't question, hey, how about your dad showering with your sister? Or was it your niece? I don't know. I'm confused. Hey, Hunter, can you tell me about the $85,000 a month you were getting from Burisma? She doesn't ask that question? I mean, she doesn't ask that question? Hey, Hunter, tell me, why did your dad tell the government of Ukraine that he was going to hold the $1 billion unless they fired the prosecutor that was looking into you? You couldn't ask that question?
And I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch.
You are a blabbermouth! A blabbermouth! You! Blabbermouth! Out! Out!
Blabbermouth, right? Am I right? This is so, I mean, you couldn't do a worse job. She's the greatest reporter. Everybody's, Candace is so on point and uncovering, and the greatest reporter that's ever reported greatness, ever graded reporters. But she doesn't take the time to ask some of the pertinent questions when it comes to Hunter Biden. Why were you in the hotel room in D.C. with a crack pipe, a gun, cocaine, and a hooker? Why were you doing that? Why did your wife take the gun from you and dump it in a trash can outside of a school? Why didn't she get charged and go to jail just like the lady, the single mom in Delaware, went to jail for the same crime? How come the Chinese gave you $1.8 billion in seed money? No, instead, her conversations were much lighter than that. Trying to rehabilitate Hunter Biden.
Okay. Don Jr. got the single largest loan guarantee from the Department of Defense ever handed out of over $600 million for an energy company, a fusion energy company, of which he has zero experience in.
Well, Hunter, what about you? How much experience do you have in oil? How much experience do you have in painting? Don Jr. is invested in a company that invests in companies that got a contract with the government. Don Jr. has been doing these things since he was old enough to do these things and made millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars himself. What about you, Hunter? What experience in business do you have other than when your dad was in office? But we don't ask those questions. And here's the thing. You could think, oh, yeah, but, Candace's chick is not asking the tough questions unless it's Erica Kirk. No, Candace's stick is being down the middle and doing a good interview and being all lovey-dovey, except that which Candace are you referring to?
Hunter Biden. Welcome to the Candace Owens Show. But now it's been so long, people have forgotten about all of the weird things that were in that laptop. I mean, this family is so powerful that they are still keeping the media quiet. about the most demented aspects of what was found on that laptop. I would rank Hunter Biden up there. I would rank Hunter Biden as top 3 interviews that I would like to do. I know what my account got frozen for on Twitter at the time. It was the text messages between Jim Biden, that's Hunter Biden's uncle, and Hunter Biden regarding an allegation that Hallie made that after getting her addicted to crack, Hunter Biden was sexually inappropriate with her daughter, meaning Beau's daughter, meaning his niece. That's what the text messages we're talking about. And by the way, she would have been underage at that time. Media doesn't talk about it.
I listen to you and I go, right on.
After getting her addicted to crack, Hunter Biden was sexually inappropriate with his niece. She would have been underage at that time. Hunter Biden and Candace Owens. Get excited, you guys.
So I got a question for all you Candace Owens nights. How come none of them questions she brought up in 24 she's bringing up now? How come she doesn't ask Hunter Biden why he was doinking his dead brother's wife? I'm just asking the question. And of course, here they are. Here's the Owenites. Just love, as long as it's not the Jews. You will never know the ripple effect that you just made in the world. This will go down as the greatest interview of all time and the beginning of the ascension of mankind. Mark my words. This will go down as a footnote in history if it's even recorded, because it's nothing. He could have went anywhere and had this same interview and got the doggone same results. Zip, zero, nada. Except for one thing. And that is, God works in mysterious ways. Listen to this.
Somebody literally sent this to me right before I came into you. They knew that I was going to talk to you. And I promise you, I did not plan to do this.
No, you're so fine.
It was a prayer. If you are wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honorable life. Do good works with the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you are bitterly jealous and there is selfish ambition in your heart, don't cover up the truth with boasting and lying. For jealousy and selfishness are not God's kind of wisdom. Such things are earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For wherever there is jealousy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and evil of every kind.
That look you make when the Holy Spirit hits you in the face with a baseball bat. When the demons inside you panic and scream because somebody says what God is saying, and it's coming from Hunter Biden, no less. We are in the season of I will curse those that curse you. We are in the season. These people will not survive in their positions. Candace, Tucker, Kelly, Stu Peters, any of these people that insult what God is doing will not survive in their current positions. Some of them may not survive, but I'm not the one to do that. That's what God does. That's what God does. Nick Shirley posted this. He says CBS News said there was no evidence of fraud. The New York Times said Somali community was being targeted. CNN said there's little evidence. Tim Walsh said white supremacy to expose fraud. Today, 90 million busted and 15 charged. It was all fraud, and they all knew it. Yep. Kim Clement said they will say what I want them to say. Yes, and you got to watch because there is words coming. There is words coming. I've seen protection come. Watch the media. Watch the words they're using. Amanda Grace, or maybe it wasn't Amanda Grace. One of the other somebody prophesied that you will start seeing actual prophetic word, that the media will start talking about the prophetic word for people like Kim Clement and such that are coming reality today. The media is going to be talking about that. Watch it. Watch it. It's coming. Now, when it comes to the when it comes to the Epstein stuff, Epstein. Pay attention, because these people are telling you exactly who they are.
You want more evidence that Thomas Massey's campaign realizes how much trouble they're in because they violated the golden rule of campaigning? The golden rule: never allow the perception that you have created of yourself and sold to the public to be dismantled, particularly in the last few days of the campaign. And when Thomas Massey spent the last year creating the perception that he is a champion for transparency and sold that to the American people, the instant that that narrative is dismantled, it's gone forever and he can never get it back. And the fact that they have to go back to this narrative in the last few days of his campaign is the last thing that they wanted to happen. The Gray Ops campaign is back to trying to convince you that Thomas Massey did more to take down P3DOs than the whole Republican Party, which is the biggest lie they've ever told. Donald Trump and his administration released 4 million documents related to the Epstein files. That's 4 million more documents than any other president before him. And do you know how much incriminating information was actually contained within those documents? None. Do you know why? Well, there's 2 reasons. First, because the people who were close personal friends and political allies of the folks who were likely to be incriminated in those files were the ones who had control of those files for 2 decades. Do you think they actually left any real incriminating information in those files by the time the Trump administration picked them up? And the second one is because of this right here. The Trump administration was forced by a law that was written and pushed and passed directly by Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna. That's right. Thomas Massey wrote the bill that created the legal umbrella by which the Trump administration was forced to redact many of the names that the American people expected to see in those documents. That's right. Thomas Massey wrote the bill that required the Department of Justice to redact names, specifically those names that are authorized under criteria established by an executive order to be kept secret in the interest of national defense, foreign policy, and are in fact properly classified pursuant to the executive order. Also included in here would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution. That's right. Thomas Massey wrote the bill that required the Department of Justice to redact the names that then Thomas Massey spent a year trying to convince you that he was demanding transparency over. He wrote the bill.
Thomas Massey wrote the bill and put in the bill doctrine that would prevent Donald Trump from doing certain things, and then bitched about Donald Trump for not doing the certain things that he wrote the bill for him not to do. Carol says the word soon has lost its meaning as a prophetic word as it's used for years now. Yeah, Jesus said he was coming back soon. But like the word love, soon, when talking about God, needs to be properly determined. You have to understand the meaning of soon in the word the way God uses it. You see, we live in TikTok, and they say soon, and it doesn't come in your lifetime. You say, see, prophecy has failed. But Jesus said, I'm coming back soon. Did he lie? No, because defining soon in man's terms is not soon in God's term, because God is yesterday, today, and forever. When you cross from this existence to that existence, it's all happening at the same time. It all happened. It's already all happened. Revelation has already happened, and it's happening, and it will happen. You see, Jesus ascended to heaven and came right back. Jesus ascended to heaven and came right back. In God's time. What do you mean? God is yesterday, today, and forever all at once. God, 1,000 years is a day, and a day is 1,000 years. Defined soon. When a prophetic word is given and God says, soon this will happen, you can't count it in years or minutes or decades or centuries. You have to count it in God's time. So don't get hung up on these words, because when God says something, you have to define it in God's terms. That's where most people get hung up. That's where most people have their problems when it comes to these sort of things. Let's see here. Data Republica. Well, I'll get that one in a minute. I want to do the rest of this. Here is Green Beret Nap Time. I've talked about him before. And he says the Epstein files were always a psyop. That is why no one in the Biden Autopin administration released anything during the 4 years they had complete access to everything. That's why it was never a factor nor a talking point until Trump took office. Bondi, being incompetent, didn't help any. If there had been anything in the files damning to any important persons on the right, they would have weaponized it. Under Biden to negatively affect 2024 election, they would have burned 50 of their own to get one of Trump's, because lefties will vote in lockstep with the left and are a dime a dozen. There's an endless supply of socialist bartenders and foreign Islamists. Now it's being used by those once loyal to Trump to create division, which is what I've been talking about, as they use anything they can to remain relevant, despite the silence from the same people during Biden's DOJ. So yes, it's an op. And it's so disgustingly simple and idiotic that it should be obvious to anyone with a brain. If you ever thought anything was going to happen after Epstein was removed from the equation, you're naive and silly. This is only complicated if you're stupid. And he's right. And that's what they mean by an op. Let's see. We'll get that one. No, we'll get that one in a minute. We did that one. Okay. Then there's this one. This one right here. And it's on Mayor Bass and the conspiracy going on there. This is from MJ Ultra. And he said, and there it is. We told you, LA Mayor Bass says she is now strongly considering allowing illegal aliens to vote in elections. This is it right here.
Consider letting illegal immigrants vote because they pay taxes. Only Pratt, a Republican, said absolutely not. Now, the primary is less than 2 weeks away. Polls have Bass in the lead, followed by Pratt, then Democratic Socialist Councilwoman Nithya Raman. Both of the top two will then move to the general. Pratt appeared at a block party yesterday in South LA, a demographic he needs if he's to move up. Yesterday, he won Trump's support, but did not celebrate that near endorsement. He instead posted this kind of ambivalent reaction on X. Now, in a city where Democrats outnumber Republicans nearly 4-1, and Trump is unpopular, his silence makes sense, right? Pratt continues posting these viral videos. This one after TMZ claimed that Pratt lives in a hotel, Bel Air, which he denies.
Now this is a story all about how my life got turned upside down, and I had to take a minute to run for mayor. I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel Air.
Yeah, I think the Pratt thing's going to be fun, especially with everybody going out to vote for him, if you know what I mean. Here is some more from Green Beret Nap Time, talking about Massey and why he lost. Massey lost because he was a libertarian first and a Republican second, running as a Republican. Just remember, Massey lost because he stood against Trump and what he was trying to do to accomplish it in a fight against the left and globalism. Massey lost because he used Epstein files as a shield to try to absolve himself of being the only Republican to vote against the BBB, the big beautiful bill. Notice he didn't mention Epstein almost at all in the years prior to that. Then he lied and released a list of innocent people. Everybody forgets about that on it for political talking points. And Massey lost because he united with the far left progressive rhinos, or progressive non-rhinos. They're progressives. What am I talking about? Like Ro Khanna and Bernie Sanders, Muslims who want open borders, and modern day Nazis like Ryan Matt, who have consistently profited off the lies of Jew hatred. Massey lost because the chance he chose America last, and that the truth that none of his idiotic morons want to accept, get on board with the real American first agenda. That is what's happening under Trump. And get the hell out of the way. The people have spoken. That's what's going on with Thomas Massey. That's why he lost. It's pretty easy to understand this stuff if you just take the time and think. You got to think what you're trying to do to me. You got to think just a little bit. So here is MJ Truth Ultra on Marjorie Taylor Greene. And rigged elections. Marjorie Taylor Greene claims the election was rigged against Thomas Massey, citing 40,000 votes that out of nowhere for Garland, or Galerin, how you say his name. My thoughts. Okay. You all know I always try to be on the right side of things when they occur, even if it's not popular to do so. But these claims are simply not true. The graphic in the video, which people are saying proves the fraud, the numbers simply show a legitimate political upset in a high stakes, high turnout Republican primary. Ed Garland, whatever, 57,822 votes. Thomas Massey, 47,539. Total votes, 105,361. This matches the graphic. Historical context matches the graphic, but the graphic itself explains the anomaly. The graphic correctly cites prior massive primaries where opponents combined received low totals. In 2020, opponent Todd McMurray got 16,000 votes of an 84,000 total. In 22, Clary Worth and others got 16,000 votes of a total of 66,000 votes. In 2024, opponents got 12,000 votes of a total of 52,000 votes. The problem is these were typical low engagement, incumbent favorable primaries where Massey often faced very weak or multiple minor challengers and cruised to easy wins, frequently 75% plus. Turnout was modest because there was little national drama or mobilization. 2026 is completely different. This was the most expensive U.S. primary in-house history, 30 to 35 million in ad spending. Trump personally endorsed and pushed Gillerin hard. J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, etc., traveled to the state. There was massive outside spending, including $9 million from pro-Israel groups like AIPAC, targeting voters. You already know how I feel about that. It's wrong, but Massey did it too, just not as big. Not to mention the national media spotlight, divisive issues, Trump loyalty test, foreign policy, supercharged engagement on both sides. Gillerin's 57,000 votes represent a surge in mobilization electorate, or mobilized electorate, not 40,000 votes out of nowhere. The one in 200 probability claim is statistically nonsense. The graphics math assumes prior low turnout of opponents, represents fixed normal random baseline, making 56K wildly improbable. The fact that Massey underperformed in key populous northern Kentucky counties, Boone, Kenton, and Campbell, where turnout and ad impact were the highest. The fact that President Trump's MAGA voters showed up when called upon, and it proves MAGA is very strong in Kentucky and everywhere else. President Trump is still at the reins. The fact that Kentucky spoke loud and clear. If there was any other anomalies, I'd be happy to look at it, but but this ain't it, excuse me. Yeah. But let's look into it. Let's investigate it. Let's pull it all out because I'm there with you. Absolutely. Let's do it. They won't. And then there's this post. You remember Gretchen Carlson used to be on Fox and Friends in the morning, then she went to CNN and whatnot. I'm begging Thomas Massey to go to the House floor ASAP and read all the names in the Epstein files. You were a hero for the survivors. You believed them and fought for them. Your actions are brave and heroic. Now, please blow the whole thing wide open. Thank you. #MeToo. Yeah, I've been calling for that for 6-8 months. So I'm nice to see that the media personalities are finally catching up with me and demanding that Thomas Massey go to the House floor like he said he would do so he can release the names and not get sued under the speech and debate clause and name the name of the high-profile pedos down there at the Idaho pedoing. But he hasn't done that. Why is he protecting them? Why is he protecting the pedos pedoing down at the island? He said he had the names. Why is he protecting them? I'll tell you why. You want to know why? Because there are no names. He never had the names. That's why I've been calling it out, because he's a liar. He never had names. He didn't want to name names. He wanted to have the political opportunity. That's it. That's all he wanted. Now here's a post talking about Democrats. It says 3 candidates were endorsed by the NAACP. 3 candidates were not. The NAACP is into partisan politics, not black representation. These 3 candidates were not endorsed by the NAACP, the National Association. What does it stand for? NAA of African something, whatever it stands for. These 3 candidates were endorsed by the NAACP. These 3 candidates were not endorsed by the NAACP because, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, you have to add an L to that. Liberal colored people. That's why. Or just liberal, take out the colored and just leave liberal people. That's why. And of course, not to be outdone, AOC. AOC's out making the points. AOC, one of the smartest, most brilliant people ever to people. And your next Democrat candidate for the president of the United States of America, although I think she'll win the most votes, but she'll lose the super votes, the super dignitaries, what do they call them? Super delegates. And she will not get the nominee. They'll give it to whoever they want.
For people who say, oh, but you're harming a life. I believe this is life. Well, some religions don't. So how about that? Our Jewish brothers and sisters, they are able to have an abortion according to their faith. You know, there are so many faiths that do not have the same definition of life as fundamentalist Christians. And so what about their rights? What about their right to exercise their faith? It's ridiculous. And it is theocratic. It's authoritarian. It is wrong. For people who say, oh, but
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Abortion. How dare you? We don't have the same religious values as you. We know. When you worship Modoc, you got to walk the babies through the fire. I get it, AOC. I get it. I know who you serve. We get it. We understand. It's fine. It's okay. And you think about this for a second. This is what people want. Listen to this. Now we had Presley yesterday saying that they need to give all the money to the black people. And this lady.
Literally, I'm seeing so many white people right now going on like organizer retreats and posting about their joy and how awesome it was. Honestly, I want to see more of y'all like sitting your ass at home and giving your money to black and brown people so they can do that shit. I want to see more of y'all like sitting your ass at home and giving your money to black and brown people so they can do that.
I want to see white people sitting at home giving their money to black and brown people. Hey, here's the thing, sweetheart. Let me tell you. This lady right here. Let me just tell you, sweetheart. Get the nose ring out of your nose and go get a freaking job. And then you can go on all the trips you want to go on. Screw you and the horse you rode in on. Someone wants to go someone works. Let me explain it to you, because you probably don't know, because you probably never had a job where you get paid these kind of compensations. But people work really, really hard. They go to college, they get educations, they get their jobs, and they work really, really hard. And part of their compensation is a week off paid by the boss. And they earn it. And by the way, they don't always take the time off because they need the money to pay the taxes, to pay for your food stamps. But once in a while, they'll take the time off and they'll go take a cruise, or they'll go to the beach, or they'll go down to the Lake of the Ozarks, or they'll go to Branson, or go wherever they go. And they'll post on Facebook. And I'm not even talking about color. I'm talking about hardworking Americans. So screw you and your jealousy. Go get a job where you get paid vacations and can take time off. And then save your money to go on vacation. These people, I swear. Oh, and here is Bill Cassidy. He's the one that just lost his job because he got beat. And they're all pissed off up in the Senate about him.
The Constitution in our country is more important than any one person. I voted to convict President Trump because he is guilty.
Cassidy
voted to convict President Trump during his impeachment in the Senate, only Republican to do so, because he's guilty. Guilty of what exactly? Guilty of pissing off the Democrats? What exactly is he guilty of? Now understand, the Democrat Party was just found to have a stingingly, low approval rating among men of 62 points, minus 62 points, 16% to 78%, according to QAPIC. The Democrats are losing, hemorrhaging voters across this country. And this is probably why.
Because we know this unprecedented assault on Black political representation, the likes of which we have not seen since the Jim Crow era, the ghost of the Confederacy has afflicted the United States Supreme Court majority and is invading and haunting the nation right now, and we take that seriously. And we know it's going to continue, which is why Democrats are committed to launching a decisive and overwhelming response in advance of the 2028 election to ensure that it's the American people who are the ones who get to decide who's in the majority in the House, who's in the majority in the Senate, and ultimately in 2028, who gets elected as the next president of the United States of America.
That's why the NAACP is supporting a bunch of white candidates and not a bunch of black candidates, because what he just said. Now, let me show you the difference between a sellout, half black, Muslim, so-called Baptist boy named Akeem Jeffries and a strong-willed, American-loving, black conservative candidate. Let me show you the difference. So you got your choice. You got this guy.
My own father, who grew up in a segregated South, had to walk around to the back of a restaurant just to order a sandwich because of the color of his skin. That was Jim Crow. And that is precisely why it is so offensive to compare that era of legalized discrimination and racial terror to showing a photo ID in a voting booth. And it's just as offensive when groups and organizations like these manufacture faux hate and racial tension. Requiring identification to vote is not oppression. It is not segregation. It is not racism. It is a basic standard that applies equally to every single American citizen, regardless of what you look like. You need an ID to board a plane. You need an ID to cash a check. You need an ID to buy alcohol. You need an ID to enter these very federal buildings. And by the way, attaining an ID in this country is an extremely low bar. But somehow showing an ID to vote in America is now considered to be Jim Crow 2.0. This is not about civil rights. This is about political theater. And the Democrat Party survives on manufacturing grievance.
Well, there you have it. Let me tell you this, that the Senate just went into a 10-day recess for the holiday weekend. How many of you guys getting 10 days off for the holiday weekend? I'm just asking for a friend. I don't know. Without passing a SAVE Act, without passing anything. But the Senate is fit to be tied that Donald Trump got a settlement in a lawsuit from the IRS for $1,776,000, whatever, 1.776. Let's get it out there. They're fit to be tied that he got this slush fund to pay off all the people that were attacked and destroyed and their lives up. They lose their homes. They lost their jobs because they were attacked by the prior administration. They're upset. They're mad. They want to pass legislation to stop this. They won't pass the SAVE Act. They won't advise and consent on the nominees. They won't push forth the Trump agenda, but they're going to get this done as soon as they get back from vacation, by golly gee. Let me ask you a question. Maybe do you think they should change their priorities? Like maybe they shouldn't go on vacation, number one. And number two, do you know why Donald Trump sued them, the IRS, was to get this money to help the people whose lives were destroyed by our government for political reasons. And they're mad about it. You know why they're mad about it? Because they didn't get any of that money. Everywhere that money is spent in this government is fraudulent. And it's those SOBs that write the laws in to make the room for the fraud. And they didn't get to do it on this case. That's $1.7 billion that they can't get their hands on, the greedy little bastards. That's what the problem is. That's why they're upset. They don't give a rat's patootie about you, about MAGA, about American First, about the Jews, and about the president. They don't care. Oh, they'll say the words, but they're looking for their grift. They want their share of every dime that goes through their wicked little hands. And they didn't get a chance to vote on it and put in their amendments to make sure they got their share. A bunch of traitorous pieces of crap, and they all need to go. No, they don't. There's a few I like. I like old Wesley here. I like Tim Burchett. I got to say, I like Senator Kennedy. There's a few that I like. The rest of them can go, as far as I'm concerned. That's right. And Trump didn't support Cornine to keep the grift going because he was a grifter. Instead, he's putting Paxton in there who won't go along with the grift. Now, I got to say this. So you guys know that it's a little over a year ago that what I was doing, which was about a third of my income, ended. And we started a new company. And I was one of the very, very first people to sign up. And many of you signed up as customers and as marketers, and I appreciate it. But I want to point something out to you. I want to call out a few people who decided they were going to take the plunge, try to and be social marketers, and actually try to do something with this thing, whether by hook or by crook or by accident, or if they even realize what's going on. I don't know. But there's several people out there that are doing a little bit, and I appreciate it. But I want to call out a couple of leaders. First is Brian Anderson. I know you watched the show, but you're sitting with $510 or 510 points. You're close on a couple. You got 320 points in your customer pod. If I read this correctly, let me make sure I got that right. No, you got 190 points in your customer pod. Excuse me. Sitting on 510 points. That's 190 at 15%. Do the math. Do the math. I want to call out Christy. Christy, which is happens to be Marine's wife, is sitting with 260 points at 15% in her customer pod. As a matter of fact, Christy, 40 more points and you move up a level and it goes from 15 to 20%, 50, somewhere right in there. Might be 18%. I don't remember. So it's a little more, and it's retroactive on everything that you did. And you're sitting on 1,920 points over in your entire group. So you're 80 points away. You're 80 points away from hitting your first bonus level. So I'm just saying, I'm calling out some folks. Thank you. Thank you for helping the Patriot Mike Show by helping yourself and making a little money for yourself. So if you want to know, I'm telling you, there's people out there doing it. And I just wanted to call out a few of them right here on the show. So if that interests you, send me a message, PatriotMikeShow@gmail.com. We'll talk. We'll talk. Let me tell you, in this industry, and I tell you what, this industry pisses me off more than anything. In this industry, this is the best pay plan there is, in my opinion. And I'll show you why. You want to know if you're doing this? I know several of you do other companies. That's cool. But if you want to know why I say this is the best pay plan, I'll show you. There's something in this pay plan that no other company does. Let me give you one. If you're in another company and it's costing you X amount of dollars a month, not buying products, just to be, or X amount of dollars a year or whatever it is, just to be a member of the company, you need to talk to me because it costs $0 to get started and $0 a month. And for $0, you can make money. So I'm just saying, it's opportunity. It's an opportunity for those who want an opportunity. If you don't want an opportunity, that's cool. But where else are you going to be able to start a business that produces an income that's like, could be life-changing if you chose to work that hard? Where else can you start an income for $0, zero inventory, $0 a month, and still get paid? You got to do something, but you still get paid. Think about that. There's nowhere else on the planet. You know how much money I invested? It cost me about $6,000 a month to keep my car lot open. Anyways, it's Friday, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I'm on all the channels and people that don't watch all the time may be watching and they want to know about this. If you're over on Facebook or whatever, send me a message on Facebook. We'll talk. It's an opportunity for real. Well, Glenda, I think we've already talked, but send me a message on Facebook. It's all going for a refrigerator repair. Yeah, probably so. Tell her she needs to work harder. She's got this month to finish out. She can hit a couple bonuses between now and then. I got one more, just because Marine's on here. I got one more to share for Friday fun. as we wrap the show up. There's not going to be a show after the show. I know I promised another one this week, but the internet did not cooperate with me yesterday. It just ended. It's like, where did it go? Oh, first there's this. Have you ever felt like this when I pretend I'm okay where God's putting me through another test? When God's calling you to do something and it's not as fun. Do you ever feel like this? When I pretend I'm okay with God putting me through another test.
I'm laughing. You're just laughing? What?
I'm laughing. Hey, I know some of you have been there. And then this is for the Marines in the audience. They come out with a new 5.56 millimeter full paper jacket. I'm telling you. Oh, yes. You got to have a good time. Got to have a good time with it. Of course there's a show on Monday. Why wouldn't there be a show on Monday? Oh, it's a holiday? What's that? Oh, there'll be a show on Monday. I'll be here. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not going nowhere. You guys have a great day. I appreciate y'all being out there and supporting the Patriot Mike Show on all the channels. Make sure if you're on the other channels, you follow me on X at Patriot Mike Show on X or Patriot Mike Show on Rumble. It's or Patriot Mike Cook on Rumble. However you look it up, it'll come up. Go follow me on those places because that's where I'm at every day, Monday through Friday. And this is Friday, by the way. So do yourself a favor. Turn off the media, turn off the news, turn off the phone. Go out and do something. Reconnect with God and, go out there and put your toes in the sand or in the mud or in the grass or whatever it is you do. Go do that. We'll be back Monday. I know it's a holiday. We'll talk about it. Whatever happens, we'll talk about it. You know that this is 2026, right? This is the 15-year anniversary this weekend. It was the 25th that the tornado came through and ripped. Maybe we'll talk about that on Monday. Ripped my car lot to threads. That was a good time. I'll find those pictures. We'll talk about it. Anyways, you guys have a great day. Patriot Mike is out.
They can bury the truth, but they can't kill the soul. Cut through the noise, get back to what matters. Stomp that floor, raise that hand, hear that truth roll across the land. We've been bent, we've been bruised, still we stand with nothing to lose. It ain't easy, the road is long and hard. We stand for our freedom right here in our own backyard. Yes, Patriot Mike, standing tall and free. Patriot Mike, for you and for me. Strapped in. You're live with the Patriot Mike Show.